What is a bill of lading or a BOL? Find out in this episode of the Shipmate YouTube channel. Welcome back, guys. This week we're going to be talking about bills of lading, why they're so important, why you need them, and what are some common things to put on that bill of lading. So first off, a bill of lading is a document that is often used in freight. It's considered to be the title of the goods. So when you're transferring ownership of something via a freight carrier, such as like a trucker, container, things like that, you're going to want to use a bill of lading to make this transfer. Not only should you use a bill of lading, but it's actually required by most freight companies. So you're going to have this document that shows who the goods coming from and who the goods are being delivered to, as well as a bunch of other legal mumbo jumbo and other important things to include. So that's what we're going to go over today is, what do you want to put on that bill of lading and why is it so important? But first off, I wanted to, really emphasize the importance of having a good bill of lading, because if you have a good, strong bill of lading, that's going to reduce the amount of inspections that take place. That's going to make sure that your goods get where they're going in a, reasonable amount of time. It's going to make sure that, all the necessary information is there for, whoever's receiving the goods. And it's going to overall make your transaction easier. So without further ado, here's an example of our bill of lading and, what fields we include on it. As you can see, there's a bunch of different fields, but I really want to point out right now the ship from or consignor line. The ship from line is really important because you want to tell the freight carrier where the goods are coming from. What company are they coming from? What address are they coming from? When are you sending them? And all that pertinent information, things that are really important to the shipment. I also really emphasize including some sort of identifying number, whether it's a PO number, an invoice number, something where this, piece of information has some sort of internal reference number where, you and the person who you're sending these goods to can both reference this document and know what order or what shipment you guys are talking about. So I really emphasize, putting some sort of PO number or an invoice number in that field as well. The next thing that's really important is making sure that you have a ship to or consignee field. And in this field, you want to make sure that you're putting, who are you sending these goods to? Where are they located? Because you want to make sure that the address is accurate, because that's where the truck driver is going to go. And it's really important. You're also going to want to have contact information there, just like you did up above. But down here, it's even more important because, that truck driver does not necessarily know who to get in contact with, how those buildings work. Sometimes they get lost. They need directions. It's always important to have some way for the trucking company to get a hold of the recipient of these goods, so that way they can communicate with them. The next important field to list is a ship via field, where this is mostly where you put carrier information. So you're going to want to list who the carrier is. I like to put my pro number right there, the tracking number for your freight. I like to put it right there, so I usually leave a blank space to, stick their sticker or whatever information they give you, whether you have to write it out or sticker it. I like to leave a blank space there, so that way, you can stick it right there. And then I like to go into, the specifics of the pallet. So this is where we're going to start talking about, how many pallets there are, how much of the pallets weigh, what freight class they are, et cetera, et cetera. Next thing I really want to point out in this field is we also have a line for special instructions. And special instructions, although it's not a requirement, are very important. And that's because if you're shipping something fragile, you might want to mark the pallet as well as the BOL with, hey, these are wine glasses. Watch out. It's fragile. Do not stack. Do not, disassemble the pallet. You want to make sure that you have clear instructions. Another thing to keep in mind is a lot of trucking companies charge liftgate fees, and sometimes they don't tell you that they're going to use a liftgate. So a lot of times I'll put in a BOL, We do not authorize any liftgate fees. Please contact us before using a liftgate. And other things like that. If you don't put these on the instructions, you don't have any way of communicating these to the trucking company. The next things that are really important to have on here is information that's pertinent to the shipment. You're going to want to know how many pallets are on the shipment. You're going to want to know the weight of the shipment. You're going to want to know what is the commodity class of the shipment. And you're going to want to list what that commodity is. So that way everybody, knows what class the shipment is. They know what's on the shipment. They know how much it weighs. And this is going to make things go a lot easier for you. Like I said before, if all your documentation adds up and everything looks good, you're a lot less likely to get reclassed. You're a lot less likely to have inspections that can be costly performed. And it can make sure that things move overall smoothly as you're, working with these freight companies. Finally, down below, you're going to have all your signatures. So you're going to have signatures for the shipper. You're going to have signatures from the truck driver saying that he received it. You're going to have signatures for the recipient of the goods saying that everything arrived as expected the way it should. Sometimes when things don't arrive as they should, somebody might refuse the entire shipment or refuse part of the shipment, or they might make a note saying, hey, I was expecting 3 pallets, I got 2, and then they'll sign it. I see a lot of different ways where this is handled, but usually that signature is a way of conveying that the shipment was received in good condition as expected. And that's how this whole transfer takes place, and that's why this document is so important, especially if you're going to have an insurance claim or something like that, because you can follow, the path of the goods. So you can follow, it was picked up from this place, it went on so-and-so's truck, and that trucking company transported it to this place, and when it arrived, it did not arrive as expected for blank and blank reasons. So, this becomes a really important document and a really important, piece of information to have. And sometimes this can even work as like a receipt, because sometimes people will want documentation. They'll want not only your PO, but they might want, documentation showing that the goods were shipped and received. So it's important to keep this documentation and keep it somewhere where you can reference it. And that's why I go back to the importance of having a PO number or an invoice number or something where you can pull this out later if you need to reference it, or if there is a problem, you guys can go to that filing cabinet, pull this out, identify the correct form, and you guys have everything you need to right the wrongs. Now, another thing I want to point out about BOLs and why they are just so important is I like to make sure that my pallet labels correspond to my BOL. So, for example, I'll make sure that I have my PO number on there. I'll make sure I have some information that matches the BOL. So, for example, if I'm shipping from my address, I want to make sure my pallet label has my address on it. And if I'm shipping it to some sort of customer, client, somebody who's receiving these goods, I'm going to make sure that their address is the same as the one on the BOL. Because when all this documentation lines up, everything is a lot more simpler, there's less problems, and your documentation, is proof for one another. It all fits together, it all cements each other, and it really gives you a nice document trail, so that way, you're less prone to errors and everything arrives correctly with as minimal of setbacks as possible. So guys, like I said, bills of lading are really, really important because they act as a title to your goods. And it's something that, if you're going to be shipping freight, you need to get familiar with, because it's something you're going to be dealing with a lot. And having a good bill of lading is really important. That's why I recommend you design your own. There's some good generic ones online, and sometimes a freight broker can, hook you up with a generic one. But I really recommend, making up your BOL how you like it. Like I said, I put an example of mine up earlier. We'll flash that back up here for you. You can take another look at it. It's a really important document. It's going to be, a foundation piece of your business. So guys, I thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about bills of lading, why they're important, what you need on there. If you guys could do us a huge favor, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We'd love it if you subscribe, give us a like, give us a share, tell your friends, tell your family, your coworkers about us. We're out here every week trying to put out new and exciting content and to help you guys out with your business. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.